Hello everyone, and welcome to the September and October 2020 edition of our monthly movie reviews. This is the series where we take all the new movies we saw over the course of a month and we review them in order from worst to best. As always, links to the trailers of the movies we're reviewing will be in the description below. Hey, our Matrix video is out. Just wanted to put that out there. The Matrix video is out and about. Also, our Halloween special is out and about. I think all three of those videos are very good, so if you want to check them out, you should. Yeah. And now it's time for the movies. Also, I just want to make you guys aware that Glenn's audio isn't exactly the most consistent thing in this video. If we had 1,000 subscribers, we'd be able to monetize these videos, and then Glenn would get a new microphone. So spread the word, please, so we can have 1,000 subscribers, and then Glenn can have all the microphones he wants.
Could you imagine if I lose my whole life? What am I going to do? I'm going to say, I lost to the worst candidate in the history of politics. I'm not going to feel so good. Maybe I'll have to leave the country. I don't know.
Former Vice President Joe Biden will win Pennsylvania and Nevada, putting him over the 270 electoral votes he needs to become the 46th President of the United States.
The Babysitter Killer Queen is the latest film by the director with probably one of the worst names in filmmaking, McG, the director of a bunch of non-essential films to the canon of cinema, except for the Charlie's Angels reboot, obviously. I enjoy those movies quite a bit, so sue me. The Babysitter Killer Queen is also the sequel to 2017's The Babysitter, which I thought was pretty bad. This film, I would say, is immensely worse. Jenna Ortega was often a highlight of the film, and Samara Weaving's brief time in the film got a laugh out of me, because even if the movie she's in is bad, she always ends up doing something worth talking about, even if it's just for one scene. The rest of the film, however, is a joyless, poorly lit, and annoyingly written experience. I don't often criticize the writing whenever I'm critiquing a film, but oh my goodness, someone had to write these lines, right? 4 people are credited with writing the script, so at least one of them thought that the reference humor for every joke was a good idea, right? Why are we still doing reference humor? Can we make movies that homage other types of movies while also trying to be a good movie at the same time? Is that too much to ask? I'm sure McG is having fun doing these movies, but they look so low effort, and I'm giving The Babysitter Killer Queen a 2 out of 10. Another horror film I'm worried about is the film Antebellum, directed by Gerard Bush and Christopher Renz. A horror movie premise of being stuck between the present day and the antebellum South is really intriguing to me, but I hope it doesn't exist just to capitalize on the success of Get Out and Us.
Antebellum was supposed to be that film, but it is as cliche a mess as a quote-unquote horror film that is so heavy-handed and is sort of a waste of time. Promotional material for this movie really said, "Oh, don't spoil what's in the film." Meanwhile, they spoil what this film is about in the freaking trailers. This movie is what spooky season and Black History Month want to not be known for. A waste of time. 3 out of 10.
Is this a joke? Rarely has a film ever felt so rushed, so pandering, so poorly structured, so underwhelming. I could not imagine taking one of M. Night Shyamalan's most hated twists and reskinning it to be about slavery and racism. It's actually insane. This film has some of the most cringeworthy dialogue I've heard all year. Just about every aspect of this film is a grand display in poor direction. Even the first shot of the film is this long tracking shot in the vein of The Touch of Evil or Boogie Nights, yet it lacks the kinetic energy, pacing, and smooth blocking of those shots. It was going for those films, but it ended up being like the opening of The Bye Bye Man. Remember The Bye Bye Man? And I'm giving Antebellum a 2 out of 10.
The worst American Pie film. This movie was atrocious. I can't believe it was even allowed to come out. I was surprised that it even did, because I had no idea it was even being made. This is the first American Pie movie without any kind of nudity or Jim's dad, and I think that has something to do with why this movie is bad. But Glenn, wait, that's misogynistic or whatever. I don't care. This movie is garbage. 2 out of 10.
American Pie Girls Rules is the millionth American Pie movie. They've done quite a bit of American Pie spinoffs, but they're usually just American Pie movies beat for beat with an interchangeable cast. This film, from my knowledge, is the first all-female American Pie film, and it's basically centered around the female orgasm, and the female orgasm deserves better. I'm giving American Pie Girls Rules a 3 out of 10.
At last.
Okay, I know what you were thinking. A Disney live-action remake is anticipated for you, Glenn? Don't you hate Disney live-action remakes? And yeah, I really do. But after watching the latest trailer for this film for the first time, this one feels different to me. Sure, it will keep the same story elements as the original animated version, but I think the movie will also present a bunch of new elements as well. It looks fresh in a way, and it doesn't look extremely CGI heavy like previous live-action efforts. And it looks like I will actually have fun. I hope it's not garbage. Guess we will wait and see. For the steep price of $30, wouldn't you think Mulan would redefine cinema? Well, wrong. This is without a doubt one of the worst live-action remakes Disney has made. Not really as terrible as the Lion King live-action, but this movie totally misses the point on what Mulan actually is and what she means to people. And it turns her into some sort of superhero or something. It's super weird. It really is just a waste of time with action sequences that are non-consequential. Some critics praise the action sequences, and they're really not special at all. Sometimes the camera would tilt during key action sequences, but it really wasn't something worthwhile. The lack of blood in this literal war film also plays a part into why this movie seems non-consequential. The ending sets up a sequel of some kind, and they really put a dub on my guy Jet Li. It's a real drag. The movie kind of looks pretty at times, even though it also kind of looks manufactured, but it has such boring performances from its leads that you're gonna ask yourself, why were you gonna go see this movie in March? Anyway, Mulan is a nice 3 out of 10. Skip this one and just watch the original.
At last.
Nocturne is one of 4 movies Blumhouse released for Halloween on Amazon Prime, and I'll tell you what, I only saw 2 of them, and the 2 I saw are bad. Nocturne is basically a derivative nothing burger that is more concerned with being Black Swan meets Whiplash than being its own movie. The VFX looked really cheap, the film is mega predictable and not in a good way, and overall it feels like the film really gets in the way of the actors' performances, which is a shame because the actors did look present in every scene. And I'm giving Nocturne a 3 out of 10.
At last.
The Lie is the second movie from the Blumhouse Halloween thing I saw, and yeah, this is also bad. Mireille Enos and Peter Sarsgaard make the film watchable, but that's it. The twist, although surprising, is really stupid, like Galaxy Brain stupid. I think Joey King was miscast, and the rest of the film was Yeah, I haven't thought about this film since I've seen it. It's not very good. And I'm giving The Lie a 3 out of 10.
At last.
Okay, so Adam Sandler said that if he wasn't nominated for an Oscar for Uncut Gems, which he probably should have, that he would try to make the worst movie ever made. This movie is not even close to that, but it's still bad. I don't understand the voice that Sandler is doing in this movie. I don't understand literally what he's saying, and I also don't understand what the joke is. Like, what is the joke? Is he a man baby? Are we doing on the spectrum jokes in 2020? Is it like, oh, I did this voice on SNL and I'm just gonna do it for a whole movie? I'm honestly unsure what this movie is trying to do or what's going on at all, and I don't like it. It was entertaining, I guess, but it's still bad. And I'm giving Hubie Halloween a 3 out of 10.
At last.
Love Guaranteed is the latest film by Mark Steven Johnson, the director of Daredevil and Ghost Rider, and this is another Netflix film capitalizing on the growing nostalgia for 2000s rom-coms. At first, I thought that maybe this film was going to overcome the tropes and hurdles that make this specific type of romantic comedy uninteresting. There were some shots that actually felt like care was put into them, but then after the first 10 minutes goes by, that all gets thrown out the window. Love Guaranteed is another mediocre movie. Imagine making a movie called Love Guaranteed, but there is barely any romantic tension between the two leads. At least in the edit there isn't, because whenever there would be scenes that would call for the tension to rise to the surface, we're just cutting back and forth to each of their singles, and it just got to a certain point where I felt felt like there was more of a priority on getting coverage than there was on actually trying to capture these two actors doing their job. It's fine though. If you've seen something like 2 Weeks Notice, you've probably seen this movie already, and I'm giving Love Guaranteed a 4 out of 10.
My girlfriend and I watched Love Guaranteed for like 45 minutes and took it off because it was fucking boring, and instead, we just kissed while it was playing. For that, I'm going to give Love Guaranteed a 2 out of 10, but the kiss was a 10 out of 10.
At last.
Speaking of Steven Spielberg, Robert Zemeckis is coming out with a new film called The Witches. He, like Spielberg, hasn't been very consistent lately, but I'm cautiously hopeful that maybe he'll end up making one of my favorite films again, because once upon a time when he was under the tutelage of Steven Spielberg, he used to make movies that I liked.
Rhodes Dolls The Witches Again is another soulless, unnecessary remake to a film that is just fine with above average special effects. This movie did not really add anything to the complex mythology of the witches, and really just felt like a carbon copy of a film that is already superior. Sure, the CGI and whatnot is updated, and now the main character is black, but otherwise, this is a skippable film that you won't remember 10 minutes after it is completed. A 3 out of 10.
The Witches is the latest film by Robert Zemeckis. I thought that maybe this would be a return to form for him, but nope, it's just bad. There are some moments where you feel like Zemeckis has his mojo back, but those moments are fleeting. Anne Hathaway is doing her best to camp it up, but she couldn't save how much this movie just didn't do it for me. Why are we still ending movies in 2020 with "We Are Family"? Why? Why, Robert? Why do you insist on doing this to me? And I'm giving The Witches a 4 out of 10.
At last.
Residue is the directorial debut by Merowi Garima. This film has been getting quite a bit of hype, so much so that it was picked up by Ava DuVernay's Array Now. After seeing the film, I understand the hype behind this film and this director. He got mostly convincing performances from people who had never acted before in a film. There were some neat visual ideas. If this is a sign of things to come, I think this director has the potential to really become a distinct voice as time goes on. But that's as far as my enjoyment of the film went. Now, if anyone behind this film is watching this, or if anyone who has seen the film is watching this, I am not some uppity rich kid who stumbled upon this and is putting it down because I didn't see myself in it or whatever. I don't live in the most amazing area in New York City. I see gentrification in my neighborhood growing all the time, and the neighborhoods my friends live in across the city. It's a slow-moving virus that swallows the identity of what once was, and I think this movie captures some of that, even to the point where actual construction sites are being used as the backdrop in some scenes. There is creativity like that all over this film, which I admire. But the two things that kept me from enjoying the film was the poor pacing and the noticeably low budget. I'm not saying low budget equals bad. There are plenty of low budget films that I enjoy, but it's really hard to connect with this film specifically, especially in a cathartic moment towards the end of the film when the resolution of the image turns into a muddy 8-bit mess. Maybe there was something wrong with the transfer to Netflix or something, but it persisted throughout the runtime. Also, like I said, it's poorly paced. I found myself shaking the mouse to see how much time was left like every 10 or 15 minutes. I love slow movies, but this was pushing it for me. Even though the film is only 85 to 90 minutes, with movies this short, you can expect either a really dense film or a really slim film that drags, and there is no in between. This is a slim film that drags. Overall, if you want to see a movie that tackles gentrification while also being a great movie at the same time, watch The Last Black Man in San Francisco. It's so good. In all seriousness, I hope Garima gets to make more movies with higher budgets, because he definitely has a voice, and that voice needs some money behind it. And I'm giving Residue a 5 out of 10.
At last.
Cuties is the movie everyone got mad about for one day and then no one ever talked about it again because they didn't watch the film. They saw the marketing and assumed that's what the film was because marketing for a film has never been deceptive before. Nope, not one time, not ever, never in history has marketing ever been deceptive. Nope. Since this hate campaign for the film Cuties was largely propped up by conservatives on Twitter, I thought I should do something that they never did, and that's watch the film. film. And I'll tell you what, this movie is not for pedophiles. Sure, this movie has some very uncomfortable scenes of preteens dancing and figuring out their sexuality, and I sure as hell hope these types of dancing competitions aren't a thing, but the film is literally about a tug of war between the most extreme ends of our society. The only thing the main character wants is for her to have a traditional nuclear family. Conservatives really goofed by not getting behind this film, honestly. Also, this film is another shining example that showing the thing is not endorsing the thing. I can't believe grown adults who have been consuming films for multiple decades can't decipher what a fairly accessible film is trying to say, but again, they didn't see it, and conservatives are really bad at deciphering art. Like, you see a Trump rally, and he's playing YMCA, like, does he know that that's a song about doing gay stuff? Like, does he not know that? Like, when he plays Fortunate Son, does he not know that that song is critiquing him? Does he not know that? But again, they didn't see it, and they probably wouldn't either because it's a foreign film, and they're not going to spend their one foreign film per year token on this film because reading subtitles is very hard. Okay, now, since I just defended this film from conservators, I will say that this film is not great. The thing that makes this film hard to sit through is not the subject matter of the film, but it's actually that everyone in this film is insufferable without a single redeeming quality. I felt like I was watching Joy all over again. If you want to see a film about preteens exploring their sexuality in a film where the characters are actually complicated without being annoying, I would recommend the first two films by Celine Sciamma, Water Lilies and Tomboy, and I'm giving Cuties a 5 out of 10. His next film is a court drama, so it should be good. Like, he's really good at that stuff, so hopefully it's good. The cast is stacked, so yay, right? Yay? Trial of the Chicago 7 is the sophomore film written and directed by Aaron Sorkin. Aaron Sorkin is one of my favorite screenwriters. I love The Social Network. I think Steve Jobs is one of the best films of 2015. Episode 4 of The Newsroom is my favorite episode of television. I haven't finished West Wing, but I enjoyed it when I started it like 5 years ago. The American President is a pretty good romance. Everyone loves A Few Good Men. But the common factor between all of those things is that Aaron Sorkin did not direct a single second of any of those projects. Molly's Game was a terribly underwhelming debut for him, and this film is even more underwhelming, if you could believe it. If Sorkin's direction was as flavorful as his writing, he would be an excellent director. Even his writing here is seriously lacking. The lyrical rhythm, the wit, the structure, the powerful catharsis, all non-existent. Every moment that is supposed to be poignant, unfortunately, rings untrue. There are some moments that get a rise out of you because, you know, good actors like Yahya Abdul-Mateen II and Frank Langella, but the rest of the film is just there. You could do worse with your time, but there are better courtroom dramas to watch, and there are better courtroom dramas by Aaron Sorkin to watch. Steve McQueen just dropped a new courtroom drama, Mangrove. We reviewed it. It's on our channel. Maybe watch that when it comes out later this month, or I think next month. I don't know. Time is a construct. 2020 is garbage, and I'm giving Trial of the Chicago 7 a 5 out of 10.
Yes, God, Yes is a fine, surprisingly funny little film that had no business being as good as it did. I really did not expect much from this movie, but I was in love with the acting, story, and comedic elements that were presented. Natalia Dyer really made the role her own, and now I want to see her in more things, too. She's a doll, and she's amazing, and let's just make her a superhero or something, Hollywood, please. Yes, God, Yes is a 5 out of 10. Check it out, it's cute.
Yes, God, Yes is another film about the female orgasm, but it's framed in the setting of the George W. Bush era America in a Catholic school. It shows the inherent hypocrisy of sinners having hierarchical authority over other sinners. It has a fun, upbeat tone. Some moments are genuinely funny, but it doesn't do anything more than that, and it doesn't shoot above and beyond in the things that it does well. It's a pretty short movie, clocking in at just under an hour and 20 minutes, and it's not a bad usage of your time either. So watch it, I guess. Maybe people will enjoy it more than I did. I thought it was fine, and I'm giving Yes, God, Yes a 5 out of 10.
Holidate is another film where I laughed a lot and thought the story was just super cute and harmless. There is a joke early on about someone's mouth that caught me so off guard that I was visibly shocked. I laughed a lot during this movie, and I think you should watch this too if you were looking for something to laugh at in the background of you doing work or doing something productive. A nice little film, a 5 out of 10. Enola Holmes is pretty fine. I will admit, it took me 2 tries to try to watch this film fully. The first half is just okay, but it does get kind of boring at times. I found myself falling asleep and just not really enjoying it. The second half of the film, however, is much more entertaining. Drake's girl, Millie Bobby Brown, gives such a delightful performance in this film, and I'm grateful for her. She really is the best thing in everything that she's been in. Shout out to Stranger Things Season 3. Can't wait for Season 4, whenever that happens. I also need more Henry Cavill in my life. He is such a dad, but 5 out of 10 for Enola Holmes.
Love and Monsters is a post-apocalyptic film where instead of actual monsters or zombies, the threat to the human race are insects, amphibians, and reptiles who were hit with so much radiation that they became oversized and yeeted 95% of the human race. This concept is actually quite interesting to me, specifically because I'm super bigoted towards insects, amphibians, and reptiles. They can all die, and I'm not a fan. I hate you. The way that they're used in this film made my skin crawl, even when the CGI was bad. There was also a fair amount of practical effects, which is honestly a breath of fresh air for movies made after 1993. The things that severely hold this movie back are the paint-by-numbers, tropey plot, and the generic score, which ruins potentially good scenes. Also, the protagonist acted in ways that I think are quite psychotic. Like, there's a point in the film where he's chest deep in a river celebrating, and I'm literally screaming at the screen to jump out of the river, and what do you know? 2 whole minutes later, he has leeches all over him. Like, I really hate it in movies where characters willingly go somewhere and stay there blissfully unaware of where they are, especially in a thriller type situation. Like, aren't you supposed to be even more aware of what's happening? Like, you just go somewhere and you're like, oh yeah, I'm totally not in danger. I'm just gonna forget of where I'm at and the world that I'm in. Like, I don't get it. I hate it. It happens all the time in movies, and if we happen to be doing a commentary video in the future and it happens in some other movie, I'll call it out so my point here is more clear. Anyway, Love and Monsters is an entertaining film, but ultimately it falls short of the mark, and I'm giving Love and Monsters a 5 out of 10.
Love and Monsters is a film that could have easily freaking sucked, but it was actually kind of alright. The movie is held down by its budget, and you can really tell as a lot of the monsters just don't look the greatest. But the set design in every freaking scene is outstanding. I was really like, holy shit, this is great. The story is whatever, and this man should have died as soon as he left his compound. But whatever, it's forgiven because the journey was funny and heartfelt, and dogs are awesome. I wish I had a dog, probably in the future. Anyway, this movie is a 6 out of 10.
American Murder, The Family Next Door is a documentary about the 2018 Watts family murders. The film has a lot of footage and documents from the events that transpired, like the body cam from the police officer who responded to the initial call, the security camera in the interrogation room, and text messages between the husband and the wife. The film overall is a very tight and streamlined series of events with some pretty tasteless graphic design with the presentation of text messages, which takes up a good amount of the film. This film often feels like more of a true crime show like Snapped or First 48, etc., more than an actual documentary. And I'm giving American Murder, The Family Next Door, a 6 out of 10. Truffle Hunters is another film from the New York Film Festival. I forgot to review it because I forgot. It's a beautifully shot film about the truffle industry in Italy. It covers the truffle hunters, the people who fence truffles, the truffle auctioneers, etc. But it mainly sticks with the hunters. It comments on capitalism, workaholics, and how that affects a household or someone's livelihood. It's an interesting niche subject that is universal, but it does take its time, and it did wear on my patience quite a bit. Just because a movie is slow doesn't mean it's boring, but this film was definitely pushing it at points. If you're interested in seeing old men and their dogs, I would highly recommend you check it out, and I'm giving Truffle Hunters a 6 out of 10. Vampires vs. the Bronx is the debut film by Osmani Rodriguez, and it's kind of cool. It's basically Stranger Things in the Bronx. For the most part, I enjoyed the plot, the visual aesthetic, the performances, and the characters, but that only goes so far. For every moment that you get where Marrow from Desus and Marrow is stealing the movie, you're treated to something that leaves a lot to be desired, like one of the scenes towards the end, that basically had all the cringe of the final fight of Luke Cage Season 1, with none of the charm of the "you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us" scene from Spider-Man. Nevertheless, I was entertained throughout, and I think you should check this out if you haven't already. It's on Netflix. I'm excited to see if Rodriguez is able to improve with his next film, and I'm giving Vampires vs. the Bronx a 6 out of 10.
The Devil All the Time was fine. I really enjoyed what this film was saying about religion and how it makes people do things that are kind of crazy, and I thought that all of the performances were pretty great. The story, however, felt kind of disjointed. Is that the right word to describe it? I don't know, probably. I feel like it could have just done a little bit more to be more engaging. There are a lot of moments in this film that just feel like shock value for no reason, and then there are a lot of moments that just drag on for a very long while. It just didn't really seem worth it to me in the long run. Robert Pattinson was great, Tom Holland was fine, everybody did a really great job, but overall, I'm giving this movie a 6 out of 10. I probably will never watch it again.
The Devil All the Time? More like useless narration all the time. Jesus Christ. This film could have been immensely better if all the narration was simply deleted. Antonio Campos, the director of this film, was responsible for one of my favorite films of 2016, Christine, which is an underrated film, and Rebecca Hall gives one of the best performances of her career. It's great. This film, on the other hand, is just okay. Robert Pattinson, again, steals the movie. He continues to impress me, and I hope this streak he's on never ends. Tom Holland gives the best performance he's given since The Impossible, and the rest of the cast holds their own as well. The film is presented well enough, but the way the story is presented on a narrative level really bugged me. Again, the narration was immersion breaking, the story didn't flow very well, and amazing performances cannot fix those things. And I'm giving The Devil All the Time a 6 out of 10.
#Alive was actually pretty good. The story is predictable and sometimes it even goes off the rails, especially in the third act, but it was a surprisingly heartfelt survival film that was kind of inspirational? Yeah, that kind of sounds like the right word to describe it. The theme of never giving up despite impossible circumstances really resonated with me throughout the whole film. I was also really a fan of the zombie designs and the actors portraying them. This was top tier. They really all looked so amazing. CGI was used sparingly for the creation of these zombies, and I feel like that was a great decision by the creative team. They feel real, and they're actually kind of scary, which is something not a lot of zombie films can say. Anyway, this is a good film, and if you're looking for something to watch real quick, this could be it. I'm giving #Alive a 6 out of 10. You will have a great time, guaranteed.
Unpregnant is a movie about two girls who go on a road trip to get an abortion. This film is okay. For most of the film, it's an entertaining and satisfying road trip movie, and then all of a sudden there's a sequence involving an RV, and then it becomes Dumb and Dumber or something, which threw me off quite a bit, and I began to check out. Thankfully, the two lead performances are delightful, and as long as they were in the spotlight, I was enjoying myself. Barbie Ferreira is wonderful throughout this film. Haley Lu Richardson and Mary McCormick have a wonderful scene together, but like I said, the rest of it is fine. It hits all the notes you think it's gonna hit, and I'm sure most of you will get something out of it. It's a pretty good time. And I'm giving Unpregnant a 6 out of 10.
Unpregnant was such a cute little movie, oh my god. I really didn't expect much from this, but it was actually super funny, and it was very cute. I love Kat from Euphoria. I want to see her in more things. This movie takes a dive during the second act, when they go to a certain place for around 15 minutes. But it doesn't matter because this movie is once again super cute, and you will like it a lot. That one moment I mentioned kind of just derails the film and stops it from being the best it can be. It really just comes out of nowhere, and you really think something worse is gonna happen when it just really doesn't. It feels like you were robbed of something low-key, but it's forgiven. I'm giving Unpregnant a 6 out of 10.
The internet is a mall. Think about that. Someone in this documentary said it out loud, and it literally melted my brain like the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark. It hit me so bluntly, it was like if the greatest neurosurgeon in the world cut open my skull without me knowing, and then all of a sudden, a 20-year-old Mike Tyson punched me directly in my brain as hard as he could. The Social Dilemma is a documentary about how social media is actively destroying the world. By proxy, it even hammers home how dangerous capitalism has been for us. I can imagine Chuds calling this film the Socialist Dilemma, but let's not give them any big ideas. This documentary is probably one of the most invaluable docs you will ever see in your life. What sets this apart from any documentary about how thing bad is that 90% of the talking heads in this film are the people who made or nurtured the algorithms that take up your attention every single day. If the film was just these guys talking to the camera in a raw format, then this would be a 9 out of 10 because the information laid out here is of the utmost importance. In many cases, it's literally life or death. I'm still recommending that you see it, but my criticisms of the film are not what the film is trying to tell us. My criticisms of the film is just my criticism of the actual filmmaking. These interviews are intercut with a dramatization of a family that is addicted to social media. There are some actors in the dramatization that you might be familiar with, like Kara Hayward, who played Susie in Moonrise Kingdom, but the film didn't need the dramatization. Not to mention that the dramatization sucks. I think it actually hurt the film's impact by showing us dramatized situations when they could have just utilized that time to further lean in on the real life examples, because there are so many, they wouldn't even have to work that hard. It's basically the exact opposite of Monopoly of Violence, which I reviewed for the New York Film Festival, but that movie is almost exclusively showing you real life example after real life example. I would say watch The Social Dilemma as soon as you can if you haven't already, and take that advice that they gave you during the credits, and I'm giving The Social Dilemma a 6 out of 10.
Borat's subsequent movie film was pretty good. I was expecting it to be this off-the-rails ballbuster of a comedy, but it really was just a little funny. The scene of Rudy Giuliani was spoiled for me online, so that's whatever. He is a predator. Republicans are evil. There was also this one scene at the very end with a surprise cameo, and let me tell you, that was the greatest cameo in a film of all time. You will know it when you see it. That made this movie a 6 out of 10 instead of a 5 out of 10. So yeah, 6 out of 10 for Borat 2.
Borat's subsequent movie film is a movie film that is subsequent to the 2006 mockumentary Borat. I think Sacha Baron Cohen is one of the most underappreciated and brave actors of our generation, possibly ever. Being able to do what he does takes a level of commitment that might be considered overachieving. This film is just as good as the original in my opinion, because not only does this film have an actual plot with actual characters that blends into the real stuff in a way that a film like Bad Trip couldn't do, it's that the story being told with these characters is such a universal problem in our society, especially one that America has failed to grapple with. That problem being misogyny and the hatred of women. I think I saw online that people were saying that this film isn't as good because it's too woke, but Cohen's attempt in the first film to unveil America's anti-Semitism and homophobia wasn't woke.
I ain't gonna kiss you.
Oh, why not?
The people that do the kissing over here are the ones that float around like that.
Are they all alone?
Yeah, stay away from them that kiss.
In my country, they take them and they take them to jail and finish
Take them out and hang them.
Yes.
That's what we're trying to get done here.
High five.
Well, I think this film is pretty funny. There are so many jokes that I could see working on multiple viewings, but I haven't done that yet. Maria Bakalova is a wonderful addition to this film, and she gives a performance that pretty much matches Sacha Baron Cohen's performances in both films. She goes places that he simply could not go, and she did just as well as he did. It was a very nice addition to the movie. And I'm giving Borat's subsequent verbose, long postmodern title for movie film a 7 out of 10. The Perfect Weapon is the latest HBO documentary. This film is about the state of cyber warfare in the United States. I would implore every single one of you to watch this film. The only thing I despise about the film is its super hackers adjacent aesthetic. This movie reveals some insane information, the sources are credible, it's just a very alarming and scary movie. It's important that you know that these things are happening. Please see this film to see where the Cold War is currently being fought, and I'm giving The Perfect Weapon a 7 out of 10. Kajillionaire is the latest film by Miranda July, the writer, director, and star of the 2005 film Me and You and Everyone We Know. I like that movie quite a bit, and I think this movie might be better. It stars Evan Rachel Wood, who gives an insanely brave performance that is among the best performances of the year. Her co-stars Richard Jenkins, Deborah Winger, and Gina Rodriguez also carry their weight. I think Miranda July's specific blend of characterization and comedy is as strong as ever, and she's able to create these scenes that are so incredibly cringeworthy while at the same time being heartfelt and endearing. I would recommend that you see Kajillionaire as soon as you can, and I'm giving Kajillionaire a 7 out of 10. Totally Under Control is a Hulu documentary from Alex Gibney, the director of The Inventor, Taxi to the Dark Side, and Going Clear. Totally Under Control is a documentary about the escalation of COVID-19 as it was happening this year, and they completed the edit of this film the day before soon-to-be former President Trump got COVID. This film is a scathing account of what happened over the last year, and it's not just a rundown of things we already know. There are some things I learned in this film that literally made me scream. Part of me still can't believe that the most powerful country on earth had a multi-month head start to get ahead of the virus, and they managed to botch it in such a colossal way that we've contributed to a quarter of the deaths. Like The Social Dilemma and The Perfect Weapon, this film is essential viewing, and I would recommend that you see it immediately. It feels like a Michael Moore style documentary without Michael Moore and his personality, which is kind of a good thing, honestly. From the underreported revelations, to the people that they got to talk in front of the camera, to the speediness of the assembly of this film, it's an achievement that this was made in the middle of this terrible year, and I'm giving Totally Under Control an 8 out of 10. Charlie Kaufman is to depression what Christopher Nolan is to big budget blockbusters, if that makes any sense. The cast is pretty great. Toni Collette being in another horror film is already a yes from me. I'm ready for this film to absolutely devastate me. And it's a Netflix original film, so you can just cry in the comfort of your own home. Have you ever heard someone get this excited about being depressed? I'm Thinking of Ending Things, my second most anticipated film of the year, is the third feature film directed by Charlie Kaufman. His first film, Synecdoche, New York, is one of the best films I've ever seen, and I thought Anomalisa was just okay. I probably need to see it again, but it was fine. He also wrote Being John Malkovich, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, Adaptation, and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Unlike Aaron Sorkin, Charlie Kaufman is able to take his abilities as a screenwriter and transfer it to being a director in a seamless way. I'm Thinking of Ending Things is a film I can't describe in a thoughtful enough way yet, but I'm going to try, even though I don't have my full opinion on it. I think the usage of narration, which I would normally be opposed to, is used brilliantly in this film. The makeup, costume, and production design are used brilliantly. The performances across the board are brilliant. Jessie Buckley needs to be in everything. Toni Collette is Toni Collette. Everyone is brilliant. Brilliant is the word I will keep using because this movie, it is low-key brilliant though. But my feelings only go so far because I felt stifled by my first watch. I think watching this film multiple times will benefit the experience greatly, as does doing so with most of Charlie Kaufman's films. I'll probably make a quick review about it later once I've seen it a couple of times, but for now, this film was as mysterious and depressing as I thought it was going to be, and I'm Thinking of Ending Things an 8 out of 10. It could be a 9. I don't know. It could be a 10. Nah, not a 10. Some visual effects was kind of but it could be a 9.
I Am Thinking of Ending Things is really a great film. I think in order to fully enjoy this film, though, you'll have to see it 2 times in less than 24 hours, which I know is already a turn-off for most people, but I promise you it is worth the rewatch. Rewatching this film in 24 hours made me fully appreciate what the film was actually about and notice newer things as the story progressed. It is truly something to behold. The film is kind of this deep, depressing look at someone who feels unfulfilled in life, and it's very scary how relatable this can be to the average person. Like, truly scary. Some reviewers consider this a horror film, and I think that is why. I personally don't think this film should be classified as horror, but I can see why people would classify it as that. This film's tone phone is another turnoff for some viewers, as it is very dry and very slow paced. Not a lot happens throughout the movie. If you go into this film on your phone for a majority of the runtime, you will seriously miss what this film is trying to tell you. This is a sit down and pay attention kind of film. Overall, the performances in this film are top notch, the technical aspects of this film are perfect, the makeup is incredible, and the story is worthwhile. As I said earlier, it is really depressing and it makes you think afterwards. After watching this movie, I was actually thinking about it for a couple of days. The messages this film tries to convey to you and the presentation of the overall film stick with you for quite a while. I really freaking loved this movie, but I can understand when someone says it's not for them. It really is just a lot to unpack, but it is high-key worth the watch. I'm thinking of ending things an 8 out of 10. Please check it out when you can. It's on Netflix. Make sure to put your phone away.
If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you agree or disagree, tell us in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share with your friends. Do all the things. The Matrix video is out and about, so go watch it. The links to the trailers of the movies we reviewed are in the description below. Okay, bye-bye.